everyone, and welcome back to YCS Hartford, Connecticut. Here's a scenic outside. It's a beautiful gray day. Gray is my favorite color. It's looking pretty outside. For our feature match this round, we're going to head straight down to the table. Oh, guess not. We're actually here with Asala and I. Asala, we've had an exciting day so far, right? Like, tons of different decks, tons of crazy matchups, a lot of blowouts, right? Have you seen a Game 3?
No, I have not seen a Game 3 yet.
So round 1 for me was my only Game 3 that I can recall. So we've had a lot of 2-0 victories, but not to say that there wasn't like a big amount of back and forth too, right? Like some blowouts, but it's been fun so far. There's a lot of different strategies. What do you think is your like most surprising take so far in the tournament? Something you didn't expect to see?
I guess I'm not super surprised about it, but the most popular decks, being the Sword Souls and Red Despers, are not doing as well as you'd expect. In the numbers, they are still the highly represented, but every time we feature them, they lose to the off-meta pick or like the more obscure strategy.
That makes sense. We'll see how it irons out in the top cut, but let's not wait. We're actually going to head down to the feature match table right now, so let's go ahead. This is round 8 of YCS Hartford. Oh, and here is our first player. This is Quinn from Collingswood, New Jersey. Favorite card, Boral and Dragon, a new one. And so tell me about his opponent.
Oh man, this is a mainstay in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Paulo Goncalves from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. His favorite card, Enemy Controller, also my favorite card. He is cramping my style here, but Paulo has been in the scene forever, and he is trying again. He just came off of finals, actually, in YCS Mexico.
Yeah, incredibly decorated duelist, right? Has just done a lot. Not native to the United States, but is here all the time grinding out the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series. So it's going to be a tough fight for Quinn, but that does mean Quinn's out. We have some very cool decks in the feature match table today. So talk to me a little bit about the decks they're playing.
So Quinn is on Dragon, which we did see previously within the previous feature matches, but that is just a strategy that you haven't been expecting going into this tournament, especially with the release of Alba Lanatus, the new Fallen Valdez fusion monster that allows you to fuse with your opponent's entire boards consisting of dragons. So it's really dangerous to go in with an all-dragon strategy, but it has been proving well for multiple duelists in this tournament, and Quinn is here with a 6-1 record, so definitely nothing to laugh at. But of course we have Paulo, who is usually picking something a little bit sturdier, a little bit off the wall, tries to really focus on those interruptions from the hand to make sure his opponent has limited plays, and he's doing this yet again with a new strategy in Libromancer. This is a strategy we saw round 1, but Paulo has his own take on it, very different from the version that we saw round 1, and tries to mimic the kind of strategy he's been playing previously before the Forbidden Unlimited list.
It's going to be exciting to see. I mean, you said both sturdy and off the wall as descriptors for decks Paulo plays. Hot take, I think, a little bit of a juxtaposition there, but I'm excited to see how this deck plays out, right? Libromancer's a very cool deck. Like, you have a lot of powerful cards, so you can do a lot with very little, right? Like, Drytron, a kind of deck where you need, like, 2 cards to do a lot of things. Libromancer's very much a 1-card deck, right? Like, you just need 1 key Libromancer to get your good combo going, and then from there, the world is yours.
Absolutely. They do have a lot of ways to get to their cards as well. They have the field spell, which gives them access to emergency teleport to get to, I believe, Decoy is the psychic of this engine. So they have a lot of ways to just access it, as well as getting to the end result, which is just a couple of bodies. Because similar to what Paulo had been doing previously with his Cypress Elite strategy, he just wants to get the 4 bodies necessary to set up a Crystron Hockey 5-Rex, as well as an Artifact Agna.
And it's sometimes all it takes. We saw the Libromancer drills we featured earlier relying more on Vandy's Ruler. The right option, especially when you have access to things like Cyber Angel Benten and a bunch of ritual cards to like sort of search and maintain you have it. But we'll see how much stronger the Artifact Scythe version is of this deck as we head into Game 1 of our Round 8 feature match between Paulo and Quinn. It looks like Quinn... Oh, no, Paulo won the die roll.
An ever important one, especially when you're having a strategy that revolves around a card such as Artifact Scythe. There's Geek Boy revealing Ben 10. Would I be able to summon this up here? Yeah, it seems like Paulo's used to everyone reading his cards this entire tournament. Yes, so, yep. Special summons itself by revealing the Benton and now is able to search.
Yep, gonna find first appearance. It's the field spell for the strategy. This is gonna go ahead and activate it. Let's grab a Libromancer that's not on the field.
Usually in this situation, I assume you're adding Libromancer Fire.
Yes, that's good. That's search. That's fire.
Yeah.
It's more. So,
Do you consider yourself a Libromancer expert after round one?
Libromancer.
I don't know about an expert, but a fan. A fan for sure.
Tell me, what do you think he's going to do with this fire?
Yeah, I got that.
Ooh, tall ask. Definitely think it's going to involve a Doom Broker. That's my inkling.
Yeah, that makes sense. Going to be able to add the Ritual Monster. The Ritual Monster then is going to be able to add I'm sorry, not the Ritual Trap. The Trap card for the theme. Be able to set up that negate along with all the other stuff that he's able to set up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the key card in this is the field spell, right? Not even just being able to get you Libromancer, but the fact that you can just use it to keep ritual summoning your monsters, very strong.
Okay, ritual summon. Yes.
The common theme of ritual strategies that end up being strong is it cheats out a mechanic in some way, shape, or form. You skip a step, right? Either you get to recycle the ritual spell, or you don't have to spend a card using the ritual spell. And we see that here again with the Libromancer strategy, able to just have a continuous card that fulfills your ritual summoning mechanic.
You can say the same exact thing about popular fusion strategies, or more so modern fusion strategies, right? It's all about cheating that initial, like, oh, for a ritual, I needed a spell, I needed the material, and I need the ritual monster, right? It's the same thing in fusion. You need, like, polymerization, 2+ materials to get the monster. So it's taking 3 cards to, like, oh, well, I can really just ritual summon with a single card.
Yeah, it makes sense why those are some of the most popular decks this tournament. We see Branded Fusion just cheating out a fusion monster by using materials in deck. Why not just a ritual mechanic that just cheats it out with 1 card? This all started with just Geek Boy.
Yep. So with that first appearance, he's going to use it to ritual summon the Doom Broker by using Ben 10. Ben 10 is going to grab him the Diviner of the Herald, which is going to normal summon to send down Herald of Arclight, which got him that search.
Now it looks like Arclight or Diviner as well as Fire is going to be able to go into Baron de Fleur because Diviner is level 6.
Yeah, Diviner being a tuner is just incredibly convenient for how strong of a card it is. The fact that it is a tuner and modulates is just like all this icing on the cake for a card that lets you send Herald the Arclight or any extra deck monster to either surge, destroy, whatever you need.
Here's the Illusion of Chaos as well. You get to cycle in this deck too. You get to potentially draw some cards. You know that's my favorite thing to do in any game is draw some cards.
You're definitely a Yu-Gi-Oh player, that's for sure. So he's going to use the Illusion of Chaos, grab Magician Souls from his deck.
Gets to sneakily put a card on the top of the deck. Doesn't have to be Illusion of Chaos, but it very well might be. I promise you, regardless if it was Illusion of Chaos on the top or not, he's going to go look through and find another one to send to the graveyard. That is a very Paulo method.
That's a smart thing to do,
Yeah.
for sure. Keep your opponent's information minimal.
Yes, gotta keep him guessing. So, correct me if I'm wrong, is Geek Boy itself the tuner?
Well, we know it's a psychic, that's for sure, off emergency teleport, and I feel like the only monsters that ever get emergency teleported tend to also be tuners.
Yes.
But I am pretty certain it is a tuner. Let's double check really quick.
Magician Souls cycles the field spell to draw a
It's
card.
not a tuner. It is
not-
just a psychic effect monster, yep.
Okay, very good. That would be too free. So, looks like he's going for a Link 1 going into the Link Karibo. Going to turn that and Geek Boy into Artifact Dagda. Okay. No Hockey Fabrics needed so far.
Yeah, now it's making a lot of sense. So we use the effect of Libromancer Broker.
Alright, so now we're using the effect of Doombroker.
Oh, it's a Libromancer card, right?
Yeah. This will trigger the Dagda, as well as setting the counter trap.
So, I selectively set the spider break. It's not my fault.
Paulo claims it's not his fault, but it's exactly what he intended to do this entire tournament.
Yeah. So, yeah, those two. Can I get that one? Thank you. Oh, sorry. Libromancer integration or something? Where your opponent activates a card or effect from the Libromancer or return to the hand and negate the activated effect. Let's expect from all the rest of the hand. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, it also summons one from Pandora Grave just cuz. Why not?
I would think. So we'll use.
Oh, he's going to use the effect of Baron de Fleur. to destroy his own artifact site, then summon it back in the standby phase using the effect of Baron de Fleur. Interesting. I was wondering if this play naturally came with 2 negations, but I guess that's too many.
That's cool, though.
Yes.
That's cool. For as much as I've seen those 2 cards, I feel like this interaction is not that common.
Mhm.
You usually see the Baron, like, after they've summoned it with, like, a Wonder Magician or something synchronized to your opponent's turn.
I just know deep down there's a combination of cards in hand where you don't just have a Geek Boy, that you get to keep the Baron too. And that's just not real. That's really unfair. But ooh, unfortunately, that is what the counter trap is for. Does negate a card or effect, I believe. Now the thing is, we see how powerful one card could be. One card gave him access to all of this. It cycled him a card. It got access to the counter trap as well. But because the counter trap is going to add the ritual monster back to the hand, it's going to summon one from the graveyard. It easily sets up the amount of bodies needed to go for an access code line and the following up, and just get that damage necessary to end the game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that a lot of that happened off of the back of a single card, right? Like, the string of Libromancer plays all just started with Geek Boy.
And that means, like, how many of that card do you have? You have access to potentially, is it 9 of them?
Between, like, first appearance and, like, the actual Geek Boys and emergency teleports.
Yeah, and then prosperities as well. You can try to keep digging.
Yeah.
And then it makes sense if all he takes is 1 card, then he tries to fill out the rest of the engine with those points of interaction from the hand. Interesting that he made it all the way to 47 cards doing that strategy.
It's a cool deck. That's for sure. Because he also has this, like, little bit of, like, a Halka Firex package. He also has, like, the Losing Chaos stuff, thanks to things like Preparation of Rites, alongside Ben 10. There's a lot going on. And Diviner the Herald.
I assume there has to be a soft version of this combo where it takes any tuner plus a body, and the Halki Firex creates something similar with turning whatever you summon off Halki Firex into a Dagda. It seems like he has the capabilities to do something like that. I imagine it's because of the Jet Synchron in his deck list, so anytime you can make a Halki Firex, he's going to summon the Jet Synchron, and that's just going to turn into a Dagda by going Link Rebo and summoning it back. So multiple ways to do this combo. It doesn't actually just have to be the Geek Boy.
Ooh, so from Quinn's side, though, quick launch into Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon. Can't special summon the action deck, but he can special summon big monsters.
Yeah, you know, that's probably one of the better ways to deal with getting sight, is just clearing the board with big monsters and making your deal with it.
Yeah, and you can still use that Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon effect, too, if you'd like to, depending on what monsters he has in his hand.
The one thing he does have to be careful of is he wants to destroy the artifact Dagda before he destroys the artifact site, unless he wants the artifact site to come back for no reason.
I will send
Oh, what a powerful hand for Quinn here. It could have been devastating had sight not resolved.
I have 2 now. Yep. Okay. Holding chaos space.
Paulo seems interestingly displeased with this situation.
Then
Like, surprisingly so, too, with, like, his opener, right? But
effect attempt to survey rocket. That's it. Okay. I will add Tracer.
yeah, if you told me a Dragon Link deck got Scythe, like, how much can it do? I'd be like, not too much. Probably wins the game, right? But then seeing this, like, ooh, that's a lot,
Like, next thing you know, he might just summon a Levianeer out of nowhere, and all of a sudden that's a lot of big bodies.
right?
Almost summoning rocket. Tracer.
Okay, so there's the normal summon. We still have access to the remedy.
Red Ice Darkness Metal Dragon. Summoning dragon from hand or graveyard.
Let's see what he goes for. Doesn't seem like he has anything overly threatening in his hand. I think, is that a Chamber Dragon mate? That'd be very interesting to have in this position. An actual interruption going into the field would be quite powerful.
Is it the one card we do? Oh, we know Wyver Burster and we know Gamma, right?
Yes.
And I will summon.
That's really interesting. He could summon it back. He could, if he wanted to, he could summon back the Darkness Metal. Oh, but he doesn't see that line, or he doesn't want to. because Rise Up Smell does not target.
I will attempt to enter fast. I will.
Is once per turn though? Is once per turn per? Yeah. So you
Yes.
couldn't use its effect again.
Yeah, it has been errated to become once per turn.
Yeah.
Yep. There was once a time.
Yeah, I recall that time, but I feel like it's less powerful than it used to be.
For good reason.
Yeah. Part of the sacrifice to get it back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will attempt to go to N6. That's a
All right, Paulo gets to see another turn. That's exactly what he wants to do. And now he gets to see how he can climb up the Link ladder to find the damage he needs to secure this game.
So, phase I will. Yes. Right?
Go again.
Yeah.
Right, there's the Doom Broker that was added back to the hand off of the effect of the trap card.
Search.
Yeah.
Let's search.
That's going to grab him first appearance. So as long as he has that fire and the Geek Boy in the field, he's limited in terms of what he can search. He could grab Agent.
I believe that this is like entirely the purpose of playing Agent, right? You need something to be able to grab at this point in the game, which is usually where like that one of kind of comes up.
Fearless, search. That's good. Auto search. Click on these sections.
Yep, there it is. What do you think Agent's going to do for Paulo here in this situation?
So that's 3.5. Right.
Yeah, interesting question, right? Because he can special summon it. He has the Ritual Monster already in hand, so he can just special summon it. And then he gets to add a Libromancer back from his graveyard. Or sorry, a Libromancer back from his graveyard. But what does he have in his graveyard already? Is it another? He has another Geek Boy. What else does he have down? First appearance.
Yeah, there's first appearance, there's Ben 10, there's Diviner, but I believe Geek Boy is only Libromancer in there because the Ritual Monster is in his hand.
Yeah, he can't. You say Ben 10?
Yeah.
He can only back Libromancer.
Right, yeah. I was just thinking about what other monsters were in there from the main deck.
Yeah, I don't think you add back first appearance because there's like a second part of the effect where if you add back a Speller Trap, you have to put something back.
Right.
So you just get back Geek Boy, but how much that does here? Probably not a ton. Ooh, but he's gonna main deck Ghost Mourner.
Yeah, that is actually a card that Paulo has been on as well. He just wants as many copies of that effect failure type of effect as he can get, as well as being a tuner monster. So, over something like Infinite Permanence, it can be normal summoned, it could turn into Hockey Fibrax, kind of just fulfills that role. And it just hits a lot of what you're trying to hit. It's just really bad against something like Floowandereeze. But against most of these strategies, it's still just good enough.
Let's see. It's interesting in that way that he believes it weighs out Infinite Impermanence, right? Because there's a lot of arguments for Infinite Impermanence on things you can negate during your turn, right? Like that's a big upside to it. Or things like you could give an argument for Call by the Grave or like Cypher V or Gamma, right? Like not the most incredible arguments for it, but
I mean, I do think he is actually playing all of them anyway, because he is just playing as many of those points of interaction as he can. Like fitting it all into 47, he has plenty of them in there. He's trying to draw them off his one Magician Soul cycle that he gets when he does his main play. He's just trying to use those, because just looking at it, this is very much a going first strategy, right? Like
Yeah.
the core engine is trying to set up this play that prevents your opponent from ever setting up a field. So to play into a field is not really ideal. He's trying to make sure he's as preventative as possible, and he has all these interruptions in his hand that he can play on before his turn one to really try to limit his opponent as much as possible so that he can at least make his scythe worth using.
I see. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in comparison to Infinite Impermanence, then I was thinking why doesn't he just jam 3 more to go to 50? Already has a few copies in his deck. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, he's just looking for a maximum effect negation, right? Like that's it. That's what he really wants is just the max of hand effect negation.
Yeah, better than alternatives that in the line of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, which also fits that tuner role, not really as useful in the current meta.
Mm-hmm.
He does also main one copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rapid, which we did see in this hand here. Oh, able to summon the Red Eyes Darkness Spell Dragon. Does he have a dragon? I don't think so, right? None of these are dragons.
I don't believe so.
Unless one of the Synchros is a dragon, but no, Baron's a warrior.
Please blow my mind. Please, one time. The one thing that's interesting though, like if you compare the Ghost Mourner to Ogre Snow Rabbit, I guess it doesn't matter because like you play one, so that's enough for emergency teleport. But emergency teleport would be an argument. But I guess most of the time you're not getting that, right? You're getting something like Geek Boy.
Right. I mean, there's a world where you would want it, and I assume
That's why you play the one,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's
Ooh, Celine.
This is a classic when you have these simple strategies. You just want to climb into easy damage as quickly as possible, and Celine is typically the way to get there. Oh, he gets to go for souls. He can draw another card if he wants to.
Okay. That's good, yeah.
This is a lot of damage represented. 5,000 from the site and the Red Eyes Dr. Smell Dragon alone. Another 53 potentially from this access code. Going to be able to clear the way. He knows there's not a whole lot in the opponent's hand. There's a White Dragon Wyvern Burster, there's a Cypher Gear Gamma. No other interaction has been used at this point. The only thing that it could really be is a copy of Nibiru the Primal Being, but that's not the end of the world, and it looks like Quinn sees it and just goes ahead and proceeds to game 2.
Yeah. I think it's extra difficult because people don't see sports, right? So, when it comes to the socks, you don't compare or something. So, being a friend, you have to figure out, like, everything that is happening, and rage skill. So, that's really
You gave a little space there to hear Paulo talk because it definitely insightful, right? The Libromancer theme is a world premiere theme, right? So you haven't seen it in any other regions like Asia or anything like that. So it's really like this is his first chance to really shine in this capacity, and there's no reference material, right? Sometimes we're getting cards that we know have existed in like other regions for a while. We get to like have basically it's hard to be unbiased in that way sometimes, right? Because you really look at what's happening over there and you assume it's going to be at least similar to what's happening over here. But you go here with a fresh take, right? But with that fresh take, that unbiased take, you also have to just start from the ground up, right? So every combo you have to figure out, you have to decide what's the best way to do it. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is kind of just a deck builder's dream, right? You have to innovate for the first time. You have to really come up with these ideas, go through the lab, just try everything, see what works, see what doesn't, and then you come to something that ends up either being really good or maybe just really bad. But for Paulo, it seems like it's doing quite well.
Incredibly well at 6-1, right? Yeah, very, very strong. And we saw like how the other version of this deck is also just very powerful, right? Leaning a little less on the artifact science side, but Advantage Ruler, no slouch. No slouch. Getting Ruler hurts. But I think this deck is probably a little bit more flexible, right? You also get just stronger cards and things like Diviner of the Herald. Like, that card in itself just does a lot. Like, it can make your bad hands good. It can make good hands fantastic, right? Something that Vantage Ruler doesn't really do.
Right. It's just overall a more flexible normal summon because it doesn't just have to do the one thing of blocking out your opponent. It could get you that search for whatever engine piece you need, but it also can send a copy of Elder Engineer into this, try to clear your way when you're trying to go second. So it gives you that little bit of flexibility that can be really useful in a deck like this where you want options.
Yeah, I mean, even talking about just like a mirror, for example, right? Like if you're talking comparing Vantage Ruler just to that card, at least the Diviner can destroy the Ruler, right? Not the other way around.
Yeah, Ruler sometimes just sits in your hand when things aren't going so well. Diviner will always be playable to some capacity. Also, just being a tuner when there's a card called Half the Fibrex in your deck, it gives you that much more reach. Especially since Half the Fibrex, when you have access to Celine, when you have access to Access Code Talker, Jet Synchrons in your deck, there's just so much that you could just do when you're able to access these cards in your deck with cards like this from the extra deck. I think the cards in Paulo's deck really makes sense for what the strategy is trying to do, and it makes, it really shows why he's made it this far.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Quinn brings in against it, but he saw a lot of information, right? He saw a lot of hand effects, and he saw that it's basically a scythe deck, right? That's all you really need. From there, it's just like sort of figuring out, okay, it's a ritual strategy. It seems like he does a lot with like simple starter cards. We'll see exactly how he interacts with that in the second game here of round 8, YCS Hartford.
Yeah, we've been talking about the Libromancer deck. We have to mention, when you're playing against a deck like Dragon Link typically very good against those points of interaction from the hand. It's very sturdy. It's able to make something at the minimum through those kinds of things. It's way worse against board breakers, things that just try to play into the field because the field itself is more vulnerable. And there is that Chaos Race App Starter, one of the absolute best openings that you can have. If Paulo doesn't have something along the lines of Droll and Lockbird, which I'm not even sure he has in his lineup at the moment, it's going to be really difficult to stop Quinn from setting up something something decent.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I will actually ask for the breakfast. Okay.
Paulo shaking his head a little bit. Been off to a great start here in game 2.
Yeah, sometimes that's what it is, though. You just gotta get lucky, right? You gotta put yourself in those positions. So, yep, he's gonna go ahead and search that Wyvern Burster, banish the Absol Router to special summon it.
Chain links will be chain link from White Dragon Warrior versus Research, and chain link to strike the dragons.
The big difference here is, as you mentioned, he's going first, right? Which means unhindered by things like Scythe Wound to see really like how powerful that card combination is and what it amounts to.
Look, I think this is the real test for the Libromancer strategy, right? Maybe it really just comes down to which interactions you see from the hand, but realistically, when your engine is trying to set up something that is strictly trying to prevent your opponent from doing anything, what happens when your opponent gets to go first? They're able to set up some established board and have some kind of interactions for you. Are you able to break through and create something reasonable on your own, or is it just going to crumble?
Yeah, I mean, because he plays so many hand effects, I feel like that means one of two things, right? One, we already sort of know Libromancer can do a lot with one card, right? If it can do a lot with one card, that means you can afford to play these other hand effects and sort of like dilute your hand of like gas or whatever, right? Starters, extenders, combo pieces, things like that. Could also mean that the deck is not good at breaking boards, right? Which is why he needs to play all these extra hand effects. Because if the core engine was good at breaking boards and it was good at setting up its own combo, really, do you need hand effects at that point? Probably not, right? You just find more ways to do one of those two things. So here, Paulo's just going to be put in interesting decisions, right? Like, how many hand effects does he have? What is he trying to hit exactly? Because he knows with the opening, like, Chaos Space and Absol Router, there's a lot going on Quinn's side.
Absolutely. And when we talk about that, we can't ignore the amount of redundancy either. When you have so many one-card starters, you have to assume having multiple of them doesn't actually do anything. So when you have, like, 3 copies of Geek Boy in some capacity, or you have multiple hand effects that are the same hand effect, and most of those are generally once per turn, you can have some really clunky and odd hands that you can't afford to have going second. So this is the kind of thing that Paulo has to really focus on when building the deck, looking at the math of it all, which might be the reason why he went to 47, try to decrease redundancy where he can.
I will spec the summon.
It's interesting levels of Yu-Gi-Oh! Theory, for sure. Interesting.
Yeah. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a lot going on before you ever enter the building.
Summon for Heretic Seal.
Alright, effectively safe from Nibiru the Primal Being now. You have something that's going to happen, bar being followed up by an Ash Blossom. But that most likely would have been used to stop the Chaos Space, unless you are fearing the Cypher Gear Gamma that I suppose Quinn has revealed to be in his main deck.
I feel like, though, if your opponent opens it to those 3 cards 2 games in a row, you just take that. You have to ash that every time, and if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, honestly, when you also have 1 game ahead, you might as well take the risk.
Right?
Anything here.
So he's able to potentially go for the Chaos Ruler now.
Chaos Ruler.
Oh yeah, what's in the box?
Chaos Ruler. Taylor? That's fine.
That seems reasonable. I would also not want to see what's in the box.
Quinn's? That's fine. That's pretty good. Clearly unfazed.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh no.
It's Legionnaire.
There goes another card in the hand.
Spec the summon Legionnaire.
Also a favorite of mine. This is one of the cards that just feels so good to resolve.
Unfortunately, I'm aware of this effect. Let me think carefully about this. I have 4 of my
Paulo has a potential response here. You might not want to risk losing it if he has another copy of Effect Veil or of the like, or maybe he has to use his Ghost Mourner or Moonlit Chill here. Oh, no, he's risking it.
I feel like if he has Effect Negation, he just uses it, right? Like, in what situation do you don't? That you need the tuner to normal summon? Like, that's the only scenario I can imagine that you don't respond.
I can maybe see him holding it for something along the lines of Quad Boral Dragon, or maybe he can see the Vampire Zombie coming up when there are 2 level 8 monsters on the field. So he wants to just prevent that from happening. So it looks like that is exactly what's going to happen right now. There is a Vampire Zombie. Paulo's also playing a deck where he can't afford to have engine pieces like the trap card Libromancer Intervention hit the graveyard by something like this. So he would really want to stop this if possible, but it doesn't look like it's going to resolve. There's a we lose 1 field spell, a Lightning Storm, and 1 Geek Boy.
Yeah, alongside Emergency Teleport as well.
We see in Quinn's deck a copy of Chaos Emperor Dragon of Armageddon. That's also a fan favorite, a previous prize card. I gotta say, Quinn's deck is sick. I just love all these dragon cards.
It's cool. And the zombie vampire is sick. This is one of the coolest level 8 exceeds, or sorry, rank 8 exceeds I've seen in a while, right? It does so much for a single card. Feels very similar also to like, yeah, you have cards like Chaos Ruler alongside this, right? Similar effects. Very powerful.
It's not the ideal that I'd like.
I wonder how many rank 8s Quinn plays, because he also milled a Galactic Spiral Dragon, so he has a lot of lines if he wanted to just try to make a couple more.
To target Chaos Super Grind. Yeah, I don't
Paulo had seen enough.
Yeah, Quinn takes an impressive victory there, like really showing what Dragon League can do, right? When you talk about it's like more of a mid-rangey strategy, that was a lot though. That was a lot.
I mean, realistically, when you look at the end result, you think, okay, that's not that bad. If I strictly have cards to deal with it after the fact, that's probably okay, right? You can get that going. If you try to stop it along the way and your hand looks like that, you're going to spend like 3 of your cards doing it, and they're still going to have something. So they just trade so well. And when Paulo's deck looks like that, where you're trying to trade those interactions from the hand and limit them as much as possible, that's really leaning in Dragon League's favor.
Yeah, it was a good time. And it looked like both players had a great time, and that's what matters, right? They're having fun at the feature match table, and we're going to go to the second game 3 that I've experienced today, which is extra exciting. But we get to see Paulo go first with Artifact Scythe. So I'm sure that Quinn's main deck is going to change accordingly now, knowing that it's going second against a card like that. We can maybe expect to see like more hand effects or more things that sort of like answer Scythe on his turn or similar. But knowing that Paulo also has access to cards like Baron, right? Might be an interesting thing where he can set up the Baron alongside that and really protect it. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, this is really interesting because usually when you face against these scythe type strategies, it's a very specific thing you try to do to answer the scythe. Usually the board breakers are a little bit better because you're able to do something like Forbidden Droplets and even into the fields that are just bare bones, Hockey Firebrax, Artifact Deck, Dark Ruler No More is really good. But when you're looking at the Geek Boy combo, which will set Intervention, as well as being able to summon the scythe in the standby phase, Droplet will never work. The Intervention, unless Dragon League miraculously has a trap card in his hand to give up for the Forbidden Droplet, it's not going to be able to interact before the scythe protects itself with the Intervention. So you really have to stop it along the way, and you have to see if Quinn built his deck for that kind of situation. Just looking at it, we did see a good amount of interactions that he could use from his hand. I see enough in here. So reasonably, if he sees a couple of them, I think this could work out for him. Or he could also bank on Paulo just not seeing Geek Boy.
That latter part seems like a tougher sell. much tougher sell for me. Yeah, it's going to be interesting regardless. I think that the matchup for Paulo, I have to assume is favorable. And maybe that's not true. Because you were talking about just how like sort of weak these hand effects are against Dragon League, right? Because it's a lot of like mid-rangey like value type cards, right? Oh, you try to like use one card to answer what I'm doing, but doesn't really get rid of my card. No, and because of that I can do a little bit more and like outgrind you in terms of advantage. But it's just how strong of an Artifact Scythe combo this deck has is what makes me feel like, oh wow, it really does a lot. And hopefully we'll see that in game 3 of our round 8 feature match here.
Yeah, both players definitely have been doing a really strong showing of both their individual strategies so far. So hopefully this game 3 we'll see one player manage to break the shell. I'm really hoping for not ending it immediately in turn 1, maybe seeing a couple breakthroughs. And I'd be happy to see either player win, to be honest.
Well, at the very least we'll go to turn 2 where the Artifact Scythe is summoned. But I want you to give me odds that Quinn has Chaos Space Absent Router.
Oh, no, I don't think he has it this time, but I think he might draw the Gamma in his first 5 this time. He's starting with Fire this time instead of Geek Boy. We'll see how this changes the combo.
Yes, but good.
Fire is also able to add any of them, I believe. I wonder if the combo also works with just Fire instead of just Geek Boy. Like if you can go Fire into the field spell into Geek Boy, but then Geek Boy only searches the spells? Yeah, it looks like Fire only searches the monsters as well, so he's going to get... Oh, and there's a Droll and Lockbird.
Oh, Ballos
you winced. Oh no.
Yes, I did. I now need to think. That is all right. This is a tricky situation. You have plenty of time. Go for it. Draw.
The Paulo is dangerous when he's able to think, though. I think he's most equivalent to Batman when he goes prep time.
He's definitely got that vibe. A little bit more vocal, but definitely has that vibe.
I think the main strategy he wants to go for here is to have any tuner. Any tuner into Halki Fibrax kind of just gets him to where he wants, but will fold to any additional interruption that Quinn has from his hand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also, like, we're talking about decks that play a lot of hand effects. Dragon Link plays a ton, right? Plays a ton. So we'll see exactly that. It looks like he's going to commit. Ooh, go for it. So, normal summon Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit.
That singular Ghost Ogre yet again. Going to go most likely into that Halki Fibrax. There it is.
I will attempt to act once.
Ah. Yes. Unfortunately for Paulo's opponent, or for Paulo rather, his opponent does not want to get sighted.
Thinking again.
What else does Paulo have here that he can push through this with?
He does have 3 more cards. He's really not committed too much. He has considered his normal summon at this point.
He's under draw though still, so okay, so he can activate, not get the search effect, but
He can ritual summon, yeah?
Yeah.
I suppose. Oh, does he have to give up a Ben 10 for this? Oh, it's so expensive. Oh, okay. Illusion of Chaos to summon the Doom Broker. He gets to set the trap card here, so that's at least an interruption.
it's a cool way to get around Draw and Lockbird, but at what cost? At what cost? He lost a lot here, right? He lost basically the front half of the first appearance along with Illusion Chaos, but better than nothing. And it looks like he set another card as well, which we just have to assume is something like Infinite Impermanence, right? Because that's all we really saw so far in terms of trap cards.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost exclusively Infinite Impermanence. It could be a copy of...
Yeah, it could be like something he brought in, right? Out of the side deck. Yeah, the real question is like, when is he going to pop up this intervention? Does he want to flip his other card?
I'm going to send himself to a break to serve.
Interesting.
That's all good?
That's a risky play, considering I do believe the trap card only negates the effect, not the activation. If he decided to give up a card in his hand, he would get to keep the Sacred on the field.
Yeah, negate and... Yes, that is good, yes.
It's summon back the fire.
Summon effect. I came... Yes.
There's the Gamma.
In response.
Oh,
Yeah, got a little at a loss for words.
yeah, I mean, if you're talking about points interacting from the hand,
Anything here?
the amount that the Dragon Link player plays in his 41 card deck, does it make sense? He sided into more, going second?
You might be able to read into that though by the fact that he tributed the Safer.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
like, because it didn't seem like the best way to make that play. But it's hard not to try to capitalize on it,
Yeah.
given how far behind Paulo is, right?
Right, like it might have been one of those calculated risks where you don't have a choice if you don't.
Yeah.
And now what happens when a Halki Fibrax tries to resolve? There's the Infinite Impermanence. He says it's fine. Doesn't seem like he's bothered at all. Oh, okay, that's not so bad for Paulo.
I mean, Paulo just has a Doom Broker.
He has a Doom Broker in his hand. His Halki Fibrax can turn into, I assume, the TG Wonder Magician to at least survive, or just draw another card.
Drawing another card seems solid.
Yes, to it now. Okay, that is okay. I will declare an attack with Hal on the house.
This might be a play from Quinn, just really playing it safe to get the TG Wonder Magician out of the way, so Boot Sector Launch resolves. So he can play main phase 2.
Ooh, looks like he put a Tatsunoko to the front.
Oh, that's really interesting. I suppose that like circumvents the restriction of ritual monsters in your hand, that you're able to just use it because it is a level 7, right?
And I
Like,
will...
oh, Paulo just lets it go.
Oh, okay, and he's going to end phase. Okay, looks like all those points of interaction from hand kept him from actually having any stable way to play.
Yeah, Libromancer can do a lot with one card.
I'm extremely surprised he went for Healthy Firex instead of a copy of.
The card is Diviner Herald. That's a good card off the top.
That is an extremely good card. You know, we talked about if it's going to be Ruler, or if it's going to be Diviner the Herald.
On is much better, yeah. I mean, because we're talking about make sure bad hand's good, right? Yeah, that's exactly what he needs here. It's going to let him send Herald the Arclight, at least open it up to searching a Ritual Monster, so maybe he gets, like, Illusion of Chaos here?
I feel like he probably searches Benta and uses the effect of the field spell to tribute the
That's
Benta.
even better. Yeah, that's way, way better. Because it guarantees him at least something.
Now, how many copies of Healthy Firex does he have in his extra deck to go into? He has access to the Charmers as well.
Yeah, you're okay. How much time we have? Thank you.
It's okay. It was a recent one. It was a recent permanent limitless. That's all.
Yeah.
We're just looking at each other like, how many copies of Falcon Rex?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was the one.
That is the one, yes. Who were they trying to prevent using two? Paulo.
Clearly here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Getting the Illusion of Chaos, actually. Trying to go maybe for more value. Maybe drawing a card to get him to more at this point. Give him access to Dark Charmer as well.
Well, he gets. Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so yeah. So it's already at level 6, so maybe he doesn't need it in that way, and then now he can get value out of the Illusion Chaos, special summoning the Magician Souls, or getting the Magician Souls so he can special summon, then, send the field spell, get another card that way.
Okay.
Yeah, up the screen. Yeah, so go to the top, go right. Yeah. Yeah.
See, this is the kind of game I was talking about, where both players get to play, and it gets a little bit more interesting. This is as simplified as games they can really be.
Yeah, I freaked out a little bit that I drew Diviner. We'll see how far it actually goes. This seems like a lot given how little he had, but
Yeah, I mean, drawing a card could do anything in this position. If you imagine if you activate Emergency Teleport right now.
it'd be a big one. He already uses normal summon on the Diviner, so other than that, though, things are pretty open.
He does have the Libromancer on the field, so I think he's open to activating either Geek Boy or Fire, right? But he might just go into Dark. I'm still so surprised Quinn didn't go for a Chaos Ruler.
Yeah, both of them, both Geek Boy and Fire, you have to reveal Ritual in your hand.
Oh,
That doesn't count on field, yeah. We're going to see the appearance of Link Kribo as an attack Doombroker.
Well, I like 52 and he is at 8.
Oh, they're running a little low on time as well. A little under 6 minutes. Quinn needs to start developing a little bit. If he has another normal summon, though, that can go quite far, being able to get access to Striker Dragon.
Yeah, I saw a couple monsters in his hand last turn, so I have to assume he has something in that. Yeah, there we see one.
Okay, Recharger's a very powerful one. Having a rocket monster itself, when you're at a deficit in monsters, you're able to use Mood Sector to immediately summon one monster back and just get going.
Yes, we Quinn. He's speed as fast as a rocket.
Alright, locking himself into darks. No need to go into Tyrannic Seal. He's likely going to try to summon the Chaos Ruler as quickly as he can. Oh, the Rocket Synchron. That's interesting.
Yeah, big thing here for Quinn, I would say, like, playing fast is perfect right now because you really need to. However, just making a little extra certain that you're not grabbing the wrong card at the wrong time, especially when you're, like, have things that will, like, lock you into certain types or attributes.
Right.
Effective quad roll, discarding 3 cards, rotating itself.
Okay. He could have opted to just destroy the Link Reaper and summon back 1.
Yeah.
Cool. Is an option. But I guess he wants to summon back 2 monsters. Then that's pretty fair. He is locked out of Link 2 or Lords for the rest of the turn, but I assume that won't be a problem. I don't think he's trying to end on 9P Masquerade or anything. He's likely trying to find a lot of damage here.
How much time? Thank you. That's chaos. 1.
Wow, with the Chaos Base in the grave as well, he gets another draw out of this.
Paulo's literally spinning.
This.
Oh, he's unraveling.
this. Turn these two into this. Affect the sword.
You cannot do that.
Yeah. So,
Summon this bag, this.
Let's see.
Chaos-based effects. I'll get this to cut.
If he has anything else to make, he could have just sync road for a hot red dragon abyss there, or like instead, right? And that would have been just fine.
yeah, a lot is happening.
Summoning.
There's the unicorn.
Chain link spooky. Chain link 1.
And he's just going to go access code, shuffling back the Link Rebo, and then try to summon back the Chaos Ruler from the graveyard.
3 minutes. We have 3 minutes.
Yeah, a little rough there. I wouldn't necessarily call that like Caster's Curse or anything like that, but that was the issue, right? Going a little bit too fast, right? He smelled blood. He thought he had it, especially with like it's Quad Moral, right? That yeah, that restricts him. Not something you're maybe like something every duel, right? Especially in that deck, but you gotta be considerate of it, right? He was probably just thinking about, oh, I can only do darks, and then from there didn't think much else.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of those odd restrictions that shouldn't matter too much in this scenario. He was just really trying to speed through his plays. He understood there was a limited time, and he saw what the end result would be. And if he just goes in that direction without having to use that additional monster along the way, if he went straight into Link 3, I think it works out the same. He just doesn't have to make that IP Masquerade first, and then would still end up trying to do the play where he's going into access code. He's unicorning back the Link Rebo, although he doesn't have to. He can just make the access code and go after it that way. But then he will be summoning back the Chaos Ruler from the graveyard by banishing a Light in the Dark, and then that is 8,300 just represented by those two monsters themselves.
Yeah, it's a little tough because there definitely wasn't a malintent there either, right? You just saw him. He knows that there's very little time left on the clock. He's just trying to get out what he needs to sort of like secure the game because he's won it, right? Like he's won it in almost every capacity if he just plays correctly there and is able to get it done in time. And it's just rough that it happened like that, right? But we'll see exactly what the judges decide. They get to assess, right? See exactly what the situation is. But it is a lot to wind back. It is a lot to replay, right? Because it wasn't just like IP Masquerade. Oh, you get something that do something else. It was like, oh, I'll do this, search this, special summon this, draw this, make another monster, spin this, discard, show you things that you should know about, right? Like things like that. So
yeah, has to pick up the card he drew off the Chaos space. That's going to be the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, and the rough part too is we're talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the big thing is that, like, regardless of intent, regardless of a lot of other things, like, you have to keep the play up to snuff, and that's it. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has rules. Sometimes you get to bend them right. There's a lot of crazy cards that get to do that, but things like this, a little bit, unfortunately, you cannot do. But let's just take a look at our crowd. Everyone's still out having fun. I'm sure they are just as wild as we are right now after seeing that. I think you jumping nearly 4 feet when you said he can't do that was maybe the funniest moment of the weekend for me so far. So let's talk a little bit about like the weekend, right? So things that have surprised you so far. Do you have anything really up high on the list?
Honestly, I feel like I would have made the right call had I chosen to play this event, where I did not want to play either Despia or Sword Soul. I just think they were far too targeted down. The results don't necessarily show that. They are still doing extremely well this tournament, but every time I watch them in a feature match, they are kind of getting destroyed by the underdog. And I'm just rooting for the underdogs this tournament. I think some obscure strategy has a lot of power here, although I think Try to Plant was a top contender for me, which is still a branded deck, but different enough. And I think the big takeaway here is these points of interaction from the hand, when the format is so wide, they're a lot more versatile, and I think they're really showing their worth right now. I think, usually I'm not a guy that likes to play those cards. I find them really unreliable, but right now I think they're the hot ticket, and I also think Nibiru the Primal Being, that guy's cool. I want him in my deck right now.
Definitely an impactful card.
Yes.
Makes quite a big splash. Earth-shattering, if you will. Yeah, but yeah, Nibiru one of those cards where, like, from format to format, depending on how things shape up, arguably one of the strongest pieces you can have, right? Whether it's like disrupting heavy combo decks or just even like it existing, right? The looming doom of Nibiru coming down is enough to where like it shapes what decks are played, or at least what additional cards these decks have to play, or maybe even the lines of combos they need to take to play around it, right? So definitely like a format-defining card. I think those are pretty good takes, though. The big things like hand effects matter right now, right? Some formats, they really don't.
Yeah.
But here is a really good point to where they matter so much that we're seeing things like Ghost Mortar, right? Or like, 3 copies of Infect Failure, 3 copies Decro, a bunch of Ash Blossoms, a bunch of Ghost Ogres, just every deck is trying to max out on these. So it's really going to be maybe these decks that can do more with very few cards, right? Like something like Libromancer, one example that we'd always used before, were things like Sky Striker, right? Like you can do a lot with very little, which means you can dilute your sort of core engine with this interaction.
Yeah, exactly. You see all these kind of points of interaction in these like small engine decks, but even when you compare it to some deck like Dragon Link, you have to kind of account for how it's been in his strategy. Like he's had so many, and even if he hasn't been able to get started, it's still enough to just buy him enough time to do something eventually, and that's where the format is right now.
Definitely. Speaking of format, let's look at the format for today. So we are in day one right now. This is round 8 of 9 in total in Swiss. We'll be playing for 45 minutes each round, best 2 out of 3. That's going to be consistent into tomorrow's Swiss rounds, where we'll have 2 more. And then once we hit that top cut, time's going to change. Once we hit top 8 and top 4, they're going to get an extra 10 minutes, and then finals, they go all the way up to 65. But the big thing is right now, we're in round 8 of 9 for today, round 8 of 11 in total for Swiss, and then we're going to cut to that top 32 tomorrow. So right now we are in the penultimate round of Swiss for day 1 at least. And, you know, these duels, they're both 6-1, so even if one of them takes a loss here, it's still very much in it, right? Like, especially starting off 6-1, that's really strong. Really, really strong. Because then you're heading into the next round, all you have to do is win out.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about this earlier. Having a record of only 2 losses is good enough at this tournament. It was right over the cutoff to hit that 11th round, so it's basically where you want to be at. And it looks like we're back in the match.
Yep. Oh, so did they rewind all the way back to when the IP Masquerena was summoned?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then just correct the situation. And as I mentioned, he could just skip the IP Masquerena entirely, just go straight for the Unicorn. The judges were there to confirm the card drawn. They were able to put it back.
Yep, the show must go on. So he's going to use all those monsters, summon the Unicorn, as you mentioned. Gonna get the Wyver Burster off the Clap Serpent Search.
Yep. The proper ordering there, making sure he's able to activate both and nobody else can respond.
The Unicorn and the White Dragon.
Yep, and as long as he has anything, yeah, just literally anything to banish.
Yeah, affect him.
There.
This line just looks better than the last line, too, which is the wild part to me, that, like... Yeah, unfortunately. I'm sure that Quinn probably received some amount of, like, you know, penalties in some capacity, right? Not enough to lose the game, but they're able to rewind. But those penalties will carry over, right? Like, that's the big thing. Those penalties will impact him the rest of the tournament. So if he gets, like, a little sloppy like that, like, again, he's going to get impacted by it.
Yeah, the big takeaway there is that you can't really crack under the pressure, right? You see the lethal line in front of you. You have to just calm down. You understand 5 minutes is still actually a lot of time. You have plenty of time to just think your plays through, just breathe for a second, and just get there smoothly. That you don't have to overthink it. And we see that a lot in these feature matches. But then we will be right back after this break, and we will have our interview.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Yeah.